well, I guess for me, my subject is drama and dance.
Yeah.
So the old building was quite cool in that it had a big basement space, which was a very large open space, and it had a dance floor on it, which was a sprung floor, and it had potential to possibly be able to be used for performances as well. So yeah, it was good. It was good in that way. Yeah.
So would you feel comfortable going back to the CBD after the earthquake?
Personally, I would. It wouldn't worry me, because what we've got here for dance and drama is not good at all. So if it meant that I could get a good space back, that would be great. But I'm not sure about student welfare and how they would deal with that. So it's not really about me personally. It would be about what the students were able to cope with. Yeah. So I don't know what the answer to that question is. Yeah.
And what kind of community facilities were you guys using before?
We were on Southern Star level 2, so we were on the second floor of the Southern Star building, and it was just a big open space. And what was easy to create a sense of community there, whereas which is what our school's foundation belief is, that we should be a community. And what we've found hard being at this venue is that the rooms are isolated classrooms, so we don't have that whole feeling of being together in the space, because the Southern Star was just one big long sort of office block space. So each community home base were in the one place, whereas here my home base is here, Southern Star's over there, there's another group who are in the music. So we feel quite fragmented. We don't really feel. We try hard to recreate that feeling, but it's not as easy when we're all in the same space together. Yeah.
But then when you have dance classes, like the music will be playing, so you'd probably want to be in separate rooms?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We had the basement was where we did the dance classes, but for community, we were all in the Southern Star. So for subject teaching, the students would go to different areas for subject special classes. Yeah.
Would you use the theatre in the town for performances?
We used to, yeah. Well, I'm new to Unlimited, so I only arrived in September. But the previous teachers had used the theatres, but ideally in the rebuild you would create a space that could be used as a theatre. Most schools have a performance space, so that was one thing that perhaps Unlimited didn't really have, was a performance space as such, but we could use the wider community, so that was the answer to the problem. But we were looking at using the basement as a sort of a fringy type alternative performance space, but in the rebuild it would be a bit silly if they didn't rebuild with some sort of performance space in mind, because a performance space can be used for meeting, staff meeting, or community meetings, or presentations or lectures. It doesn't have to just be for theatre. So to me that would make a lot of, you could have a whole school meeting as well, in a place like that. Yeah, so hopefully they do that.
So in the previous building you guys didn't have any assembly, like big assembly places?
Just the study and maybe
Yeah, so they used to use the community, they used, the short time I've been there, they used the Majestic House, which was just down the street. But that was a huge venue, so it was almost too big. It was a big proscenium arch theatre with lots and lots of seating, double layer. So that was the only time I'd seen in my short time there being a whole community meeting. But it is an important part of what Unlimited do. They have an amazing graduation ceremony where everybody gets thanked and praised and everything, so there is that need. And I think if there was, it's quite an artistic school, if there was a space that was able to be used for performance, it would be in action the whole time. It would, because there's music and there's dance and there's drama and there's special projects that children are working on that they could have a chance to present back to wider community. And I do find, having come from mainstream schooling, one of the things that is difficult about a place like this is communication through the whole school and how you do that. So perhaps having a place where everybody could come together, even if it was only once a term or once a year, it solves that issue of how do we communicate with so many different communities and have the same key message going out to all groups and things.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for staff, where do you guys have staff meetings?
At the moment, in various different places. Just
Do you guys used to have staff meetings often, or
yeah, once a week.
once a week?
Yeah, and we're just that hasn't really changed. That sort of.
Okay. Would there be a meeting room in the old building?
No, we just have it at different places, at different communities. We're
Okay.
close to, yeah.
So you
that's the same
might
here
like
now.
push tables together.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or just lounge about. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not very conventional meetings as in everyone sits around a table, but that's not what Unlimited do. It's all very relaxed and everyone just lounging around talking. Yeah.
When would the time of that be?
We have that on a Monday.
After school or before? After school.
on a Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I guess that's one thing again. A part of the philosophy of Unlimited is that teachers don't have a staff room. That it is that we are with the students all the time and available, and so I don't know in your planning if you plan for that, because I'm not sure if that fits in with the philosophy. Personally, I'd love to be able to have a space where I can go away, but I'm not sure if that's what the philosophy of the school is. I'm not sure, so maybe you'd need to talk to somebody who knew about that, but yeah.
Because I mean, for students, they probably some of them might want private spaces as well.
Yes, well, that's one thing that hasn't worked here for some of my home-based students, is that they this is their year 13.
Yep.
This is a really, really important year.
Yep.
This is their place where they hang out, and there's music playing and dance playing, music and da-da-da, and they need to be able to just concentrate, and there's been a fair amount of anxiety around finding a quiet space. So that has been something.
Because there are always problems if the school is too open.
Yes. Yeah. It was quite good in the old buildings because there were little rooms that students could go that were quiet, that were kind of shut off from the other. But here, one of my girls who's trying to get academic excellence this year is really stressed because there's no. Well, she hasn't been able to find a place that's quiet. Maybe there is, but she doesn't know where that is. So it's quite difficult for her. So a quiet space will be important.
The little classrooms in Tawhiti were quite good because there was always one that was like empty, or one or two that were empty.
Yeah. So absolutely, I think that's important, is a quiet place to study.
Do you have any more questions?
Okay.
Okay.